In May of 2018, Amy walked away from a 25-year career in education. After witnessing leaders who were not leading with integrity, she made the choice to quit. Amy's passion has always been teaching, whether it was the kindergartners she worked with 25 years ago or the teachers she coached for 17 years, it's in her soul. Now, Amy's making a difference on a much broader scale. She's able to do what she loves on her terms. She's able to be a leader who leads with a heart for service, putting others before herself while maintaining the leadership qualities she holds true. Amy believes great leaders don't come from a place of power. They come from a heart of service. They aspire to build others up, creating more great leaders. There's a Simon Sinek quote that Amy particularly loves. Leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. I'm thrilled to have you on the show today and share your passion, share your purpose, and also share some of your life hacks with the listening audience. You know, I love my show and created my show for the purpose of motivating and inspiring others, but you know, action is a big part of that. Motivation without any action is really meaningless. So I hope to explore all of this wonderfulness in the hour with you ahead.
Go
ahead, Amy.
I'm really looking forward to this. I mean, we are so aligned. Brave, bold action is definitely what I've done this past year. And so I'm just thrilled to be a guest on your show today.
Yeah, so let's start there, okay? So those who listen regularly know that I'm really fascinated about the journey. It's easy to look at you, those who are watching on Facebook, and those who are regular watchers of you on LinkedIn. It's easy to look at you in your kitchen and think, oh, well, that's easy, that's nice. Look at the success that she's had. I want to peel back the layers and explore the journey to getting there, because that's where the inspiration and motivation is for others. So
absolutely.
So why don't you tell us about, start us out where, you know, your career, how that got started, and walk us through how it got to his 25-year career. So we've only got an hour, but walk us through how it got to that point in, you know, May 2018, where you really took that brave action.
Sure. So, you know, like many young kids right out of college, I was so excited to get into teaching. It was my dream. I was 21 years old. I graduated from college. I started teaching. And in my 20s, I literally felt like I had won the lottery, and it had nothing to do with money. I was going to a job every day that I absolutely loved. I knew I was making a difference. I was actually teaching in a Title I school, which some of your listeners may or may not know. The Title I school in California is when 50% or more of the kids are on free or reduced lunch. So there was a high need of these kids. And, you know, I grew up kind of in a bubble, middle class, and some of the experiences that these kids came to me with they taught me huge lessons. You know, I had kids whose parents were addicted to drugs and didn't pick them up from school because they had been arrested in a big meth lab.
Wow.
You know, kids whose parents were in prison. So that just taught me so much compassion and empathy, and I was really making a difference. So after a 9-year career teaching, I was ready to have my own family, and I knew that I didn't want to work full time. So that's how I got into the consulting. And I was really fortunate to be able to be a mom and be a consultant and kind of make my own hours, work as much or as little as I wanted. And I was working with new teachers, helping them their first 2 years. So I was still having that impact, getting in the classroom, seeing the students, working with the teachers. But as you know, Louise, like, motherhood is a journey. And during that time, I mean, I didn't feel like I was a fabulous mother, a fabulous wife, doing fabulous in my career. It was kind of like I was just pulled in all these directions. And, you know, a lot of my confidence that I had in my 20s kind of got whittled away. You know, another thing that had happened in my 20s to break down that confidence that I had as that young woman right out of college, ready to take on the world, I was engaged, and about a month and a half before my wedding, my fiance had called the wedding off. And,
Wow.
not only just called the wedding off, but his reasons were he wasn't attracted to me and he didn't love me. And so, that was a huge hit to me. And I gave a lot of my power away in that situation. And I just didn't feel good about myself. I questioned, am I smart enough for someone? Am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Am I successful enough? And that was kind of a pivotal moment in my life. And that, before I met my husband, but that's just a little bit in where my confidence was broken down. And then fast forward to May of this year, I had done my coaching career, worked with new teachers. This year, I was so excited. One of the teachers that I had the honor to coach had been in my kindergarten class.
Oh, talk about full circle.
Full circle. Her mom had reached out to me. I'm still in touch with several of my students' parents and students from 20 years ago. And she said, I know you're doing this coaching job, and my daughter is a new teacher. And if you could be her coach, we would all be so honored. So I made that happen.
Wow.
And this gal was phenomenal. She was that teacher that we all want our kids to have. She went above and beyond. She put her heart and soul into it. And it reminded me a lot of me, back in my 20s. It was so much more than a job. It was my heart and soul, and it was this gal's heart and soul. Well, what had happened in my job that I did, I worked really closely with the teacher and their administrator. And I helped make sure that those teachers were fulfilling all those goals that the site had, as well as this California standards.
Yeah.
And, bigger than that, like, my job was to really walk along their side and be their mentor and be that person that they could go to, because there's so many more things than just the standards, right? There's that human element. And having been in the trenches myself, I got it, so if there was a meeting maybe one day where a teacher I was working with was just having a bad day because maybe one of their kids was taken out of the home and put into foster care, we put all of the paperwork aside, all of the standards aside, and we just focused on, their needs for the day. And that was the most rewarding part of the job to me. But part of the job was, these state standards. And this administrator that I had to work with her, in my 25-year career, I had never had an administrator like this. He gave me a weird feeling from the beginning. I could tell that he just had this power of his title, and he didn't have the love of creating other leaders. And one of the things that he did with this teacher, he would find her and say, when no one else was around to hear any of this, he would say, "You're a rookie, act like one."
Yeah, keep people small. Keep people small and contained.
Yeah, he would say, "You talk too loud." He would tell her that she didn't smile enough.
Wow.
And he said that, she was too confident. And here's the thing. We want our women to be confident. We want our teachers to be confident. And to have that mixed message of, go into your career with confidence, and then to have a boss telling you that you're too confident for whatever reason, she threatened him. And I asked her, do you want me to go talk to him? As part of my job, I did work with these administrators, and she would say, no, I'm nervous that he'll retaliate.
Yeah.
So I didn't. And then it came to the time when I was in her classroom for an observation, which was part of my job description. And he came in to do an observation the same day. And, just for the background information, like, it was so common for me to be on campus and have a principal see me and say, "Hey, Amy, are you going to be observing? Like, let's do it at the same time to make it easier for this teacher," because we were both, observing for different things, but in there for the same reason.
Right.
And this man, Louise, he walked in, and he looked at me, and he walked up to my teacher, and he whispered something in her ear, and he walked out.
Wow.
And I just got this sick feeling in my stomach. And I went up to her when she had a break and I asked her what he said. And she said, he told me that he would not observe me with you in the room. And again, I didn't know what to make of it. You know, this is 6-7 months ago. I wasn't this confident person that I am now, that I've become since this happened. I knew something was wrong. I knew in my gut something was wrong. But I didn't really know what to do. But what I did do was I called my supervisor. I had actually called my supervisor back when she was being told, you're a know-it-all, you're a rookie, act like one, because I knew that wasn't right.
Right.
And the most disappointing thing happened. The supervisor, who was a woman that I had admired, her advice to me, Louise, was to tell her to go look for another job.
Not uncommon, but absolutely devastating.
That is not okay.
Yeah.
And so when the second thing happened and this man walked out of a room I was in, and I'm the most least threatening person on the planet. I mean, it just was so bizarre to me. I called my supervisor, who was also a woman that I had admired, that I had worked with for a while. And I just thought, okay, here's what I need to do. I explained the situation to her and I said, I need to meet with this man because not only did he walk out of the room when I was in it, he ended up observing her a few days later and he gave this teacher all zeros, many zeros, where before her observation was all top scores. And so I needed to talk with him and just see, like, where's the disconnect happening? Why are you seeing her scoring so low? And let me know what I can do as her coach to get her where you need her to be mastering these standards. Even though I was seeing something totally different, I was seeing this dynamic teacher that anybody would want. I went into it with, you know, let's work together.
Yeah, an open mind.
Yeah. So I reached out to my boss's boss and I said, I need to meet with this man. I don't feel comfortable meeting with him alone. He's walked out of a room that I've been in. He graded her on this evaluation and he actually lied about certain things on the evaluation, and I need somebody with me. So I would appreciate if you could come with me, or I could have, you know, my other supervisor come, or even just another coach, just to have another body in the room.
Yeah.
I didn't, and I told her, I said, I don't feel comfortable with this man. And her response to me was, she actually said on the phone, no. And I mean, I literally am feeling the feelings right now that I felt when I heard that no.
Of course.
My heart broke. And I knew, like I can't do this job. And I asked her, I said, okay, well, I'm not going to meet with him. I'm not comfortable. I don't trust this guy. What do you want me to do? So her advice was for me to email him, which I did. I went home. I composed an email, very professional. You know, Mr. So-and-so, I noticed, you know, Emma, my teacher got zeros in these areas. As her coach, my job is to have her flourishing and meeting all these standards. And I want to help her get where you want her to be. So let me know if you want to set up a phone call, or if you want to just email me some points, and I'll get to work with her on those things.
Invitation to collaborate. Absolutely.
And that was my job description. I was supposed to be collaborating with this man. And the next day, my teacher calls me in tears. She was fired.
Holy shit.
So in California, you don't have to have a reason to let a teacher go their first 2 years.
Okay.
And so she was let go. She could finish her year off, which was a couple of months, but she was not going to be elected to be hired for that following year.
Okay.
And
So talk to us then about, so this is obviously that pivotal leader that was in your life.
Yeah.
That was the impetus for you to make massive change.
Yes.
So was this that final straw?
It was. And throughout the whole year, you know, all these things had happened, even more than I've already talked about. And I would come home, and my husband, works for a Fortune 250 company, you know, I would say, I don't think this is right. Like, this is what happened. And he would say, you're right. Like, if that happened in my company, that's a hostile work environment,
Yep.
or, that's this. And so while none of my peers that I was working with, Louise, nobody was saying, this isn't right.
Yeah, no one was raising their hand or their flag saying, what's going on here?
No, it was just status quo. Like,
you know what, Amy? I have an opinion on that, though. I have an opinion on that, and that is because I've been in similar situations myself, and I know that there are listeners who will absolutely be able to resonate with what you're saying, and there are some that just accept it and go and punch the clock.
Yeah.
And I'm not being critical of those people, but there are many workplaces, unfortunately, like how you describe. And so if you can't, that expression, if you can't beat them, join them. So you couldn't beat them in the terms of like influencing them. Oh, sorry, you couldn't join them. So you had to beat them by leaving.
Yeah. And I did something even bigger.
All right, let's hear it. What did you do? I don't know what you did.
So I did. So I ended up quitting, and I felt such anguish over this experience, over this man that led the way he did, that was in charge of teachers, over my 2 supervisors that didn't support me, and over this like blanket of people that I would tell the story to that I worked with, my peers that were just like
accepting. Yeah.
That I made a video about this story. And I was so nervous. I was shaking. I had my 15-year-old daughter record me, because the reason I quit, I saw this teacher as my daughter. My daughter's going to be in the workforce.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, if nobody's going to speak up for my daughter, like, what would I do? So I used my voice and I spoke up. I didn't say anybody's name. My job wasn't to slander anybody, but this happened to me. And I thought it was the craziest thing. And I needed to get the story out there because I wanted other people to use their voice. So I felt like I wanted to throw up. I was shaking. I had my dad who, gosh, I love my parents so much, but he told me, like, don't do this. Don't make this video. You're going to get sued. I said, Dad, this happened to me. I'm not going to get sued. I'm not saying anybody's name. And this happened to me and people need to know about it. And so my daughter filmed me. I told the story. I just put it on my private Facebook page, but I made it public. And Louise, that video, it spread and it spread and it spread and it spread. And I had friends that were teachers and they would send me texts and say, oh my gosh, I walked by my administrator's office and I could hear your voice. I walked by my neighbor teacher's office and I heard your voice. And so I think it has over 5,000 views.
Wow.
And everybody's seen it.
And so I'm sure there are people actually who are interested in seeing this video. How could they see that video? How could they access that video? LinkedIn?
I can get you the link.
Maybe it's even, is it on LinkedIn if they looked at your videos?
It is on LinkedIn. I've got a ton of videos on LinkedIn, but I can get you the links for both. And so I not only put it on Facebook and have like 4,000 or 5,000 views, I shared this story on LinkedIn and I think it has 65,000 views.
Yeah.
And more important than the views, Louise, is I finally got that feedback from presidents of companies, from women leaders, from men leaders, from CEOs saying, thank you for using your voice.
Thank you for using your voice.
Thank you for taking a stand. Thank you for standing up when something wasn't going right and saying, this isn't okay. And so that made it all worth it. All of it. I will never be able to work in education in my career. I burned every boat. Napoleon Hill, if you haven't read his book, he talks about burning the boats, and that was a burn the boat moment. I knew, yes, I knew when I made that video, I was burning every boat. But Louise, it was so important to me to share this story, to give other women, other people to give them the permission to use your voice. And if you think something is wrong in your gut, even if those people around you are saying that's just the way it is, I am here to tell you it's not the way it is. You do not need to put up with harassment. You don't need to put up with horrible bosses. You have choices. Everybody has a choice.
Everybody has choices. I love that. I love, there's so much yes about what you just shared. And just screaming through for me is how you're just living a life that's in line with your values. And that means that at times there are tough choices. So I'd really like to, so thank you, first of all, so much, not only for using your voice and having the courage to share it and, you know, having your daughter film it and hitting post. It takes courage all through that process, and so many more times you've had to dig into that courage. What I'm really interested in knowing and exploring a little bit right now is, how did you find that, right? How did you decide? So you made the decision, I'm going to do this. But how do you tap into that courage to then hit post? And I'm asking this because I know that there are listeners who, whether it's a similar story or somewhere else in their life, they're needing to tap into the courage that they know they need to do something, but they're trying to find that courage. Share with us how you actually access that.
So building up into that point, I had made this major life transformation. So 2 years ago, my best friend from college, she died. And when she died, I woke up. And I realized I am living this life and I'm going through the motions. And I'm not going to do that anymore because she doesn't have her life to live anymore. And I am not going to waste this one. And so 2 years ago, way before I quit my job, I started taking courageous action every single day. And that started with a book, The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Because I didn't have courage, Louise. I lived this life of fear. You know, I stayed in this job for 17 years. I never got a raise.
Wow.
That was someone that didn't value herself. And so when I decided to dig in and do the work, to build courage, to build a remarkable life, I read that 5-Second Rule book, which basically Mel Robbins, she was the #1 book female speaker in the world last year. She talks about this 5-second rule where you need to count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you take action on whatever thought is in your head. And for me, I started by just doing things that scared me, little silly things.
Like what? Can you think of something in particular? Because I'm sure. So give us an example.
So, you know, involved in wanting to change my life 2 years ago, I thought, you know, I want to start this little side business. I had this passion and I needed to talk to some woman that had a successful business that I admired. And that happened to be my kid's pediatric dentist. She had this phenomenal business with this phenomenal team. I didn't know her other than being my kid's dentist, but I wanted to talk to her. And I was really nervous about reaching out.
Yeah.
So I used that 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I sent this woman a message through Facebook. I felt sick to my stomach. I mean, we all do. When there's that thing that scares you, you get that feeling in your stomach. And I don't know why. It's stupid. Like, what is she going to do? Like, come to my house and yell at me because I asked her to talk to me? I mean, that's the thing. Our fears are stupid, but they're legitimate fears. And for me, you know, 2 years ago, I had deep fears. But I did. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I pushed through my fear. I sent that message on Facebook. And not only did she say, yeah, I'll talk to you for 5 minutes, she said, let's go to coffee.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another story that changed the trajectory of my life, that 5-second decision to push through fear. So whether it's fear of reaching out to ask somebody something, or sending an email, or making a phone call, or having that difficult conversation with your spouse. I encourage everybody today, push through fear, those things that scare you. And when you do those little things, like me reaching out to that pediatric dentist on Facebook, sending
Joelle, shout out to Joelle.
Those little courageous things that you start doing day in and day out, those lead you to be able to take massive action. And even though I'm really still scared to quit my job and then to make that video, every time you take action, your courage and your confidence build. And before you know it, you changed your life like I have.
I love it. It's those, and thanks for walking through that, because we tend to look again, and we look at people once they've kind of reached a certain level of whether it's fame or success, and we fail to recognize that that's often taken, it's daily habits, it's daily rituals, and often years of work that have led up to that. And so thank you so much for sort of walking us through, you know, a tool that you use, which is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 5-second rule tool, and that example, because I think that it just brings it to life. It makes it more real. So tell us more about how this relationship with Joelle, because I know that this has, as you said, it's taken, you know, taking that brave, bold action. When you know it's in line with your values, it opens up doors that you never knew were possible.
Oh,
so
yes.
I'd love to explore this relationship and dynamic a little bit more. And I know that there's a fundraiser that happened recently, then I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes. And, you know, there's that quote, like, everything you wanted is on the other side of fear. And if your listeners take nothing else away today, like, I encourage every single person out there, you do those uncomfortable things, do those things that scare you, because magic is waiting for you on the other side. And this story with Joelle, with that pediatric dentist that I was so nervous to reach out to, this wasn't even a year and a half ago. That message that I sent her, this is what happened. We went to coffee. I was nervous to go to coffee with her. Here I am, like in my mind, a nobody. And here she is, a doctor. And not only is she doctor, she looks like a freaking Russian supermodel. This woman is amazing, talented, smart, and gorgeous. And that's another thing that, especially your women listeners, don't get intimidated by women that are beautiful, that are smart, that are intelligent, because they're freaking awesome people. And
they're often scared shitless too.
Yes. And so this is Joelle. We go to coffee. I'm telling her all about this business that I wanted to start. I'd never started a business before. And we sat there for 2 hours and I like poured my heart and soul out to her about this business. And she was just giving me all of her wisdom. And really I wanted to know, like, how do you get this phenomenal team? How do you hire the right people? Because I have such a mission aligned vision that it's not just hiring people. I knew there had to be some magic to it. And at the end of our 2-hour coffee talk, she says, have you heard of the giving keys? And I hadn't. And she had a key necklace on and it said, believe on it. And she said, I'm getting goosebumps right now. This moment is just so big. She said, I believe in what you're going to do so much that I have this key that says believe, and I'm going to give it to you. And you wear this key, and every step of the way with this business that you're doing, you believe that anything is possible. And you wear this key of belief until you have that deep in your soul, and then you take that key and you give it to somebody else who needs to believe. And so, Louise, we both had tears in our eyes. And it was like this moment that I knew was way bigger than that moment. And the story just is so involved and goes so deep. But today, we're best friends. I am 46 years old and I have a new best friend.
I love it, Amy. And it sounds like I didn't know that backstory. So the listeners are aware, Amy and I, we actually met online, as many people do. You know, the power of the internet can be used to good, and this is an example of it. So I didn't know that this likely then is how you came up with the name of the company which you founded, Keys to Courage.
Yes, it is, because
That's pretty awesome.
And for anybody that, you know, thinks, oh, she's confident. I wasn't confident. I had that key of belief. And when I was starting my business, I wore it to every meeting I went to. I wore it for every email I sent. I wore it everywhere I went. And so while Joelle gave me that, here's permission to believe in yourself, I had to do the work.
Yeah.
And I am telling you, it is possible for anybody out there, because I didn't believe in myself. And today I know I can do anything. I literally can do anything I set my mind to.
I believe you, Amy. I believe you.
And you've seen it, and I have, over and over and over and over again. And it started with that key that Joelle gave to me. And so that really prompted me on wanting to share that story and share that when you believe that belief is possible, and when you take action on those things that scare you, and you start building your confidence and you start building your courage, like, you will change your entire life.
You know, it reminds me of a couple of principles that I just hold so near and dear to my heart, and that is courage and connection. Right? So you talked about courage, and then it really is. I see every day the power of strong women connecting with other strong women, and then uplifting those around. And this is just such a beautiful example of that. And then you're out now sharing this with so many people. So I have a question for you about purpose, and then I want to turn the conversation to another incredible woman who you have connected with as well online, Fabi Powell. I want to explore that a little bit, but I also want to talk to you first quickly about purpose, because I believe that knowing your purpose changes everything. And I believe that your purpose is not just something big that's going to happen to you. It's really about, you know, a culmination of what you've done so far in your life and who's been involved in your life, that connects the dots of your life, that bring value and meaning.
Yes.
And so what do you think about sort of finding one's purpose? Because it seems pretty big and lofty, right? And how did you, and you've talked us a little bit, but tell us more about then how you found yours, how that actually became something that got to a point where you knew that Fabi was someone to connect with.
So, and here's the thing about purpose. I think as we go through life, our purpose can change, and it does. And so in my 20s, my purpose, what fulfilled me, what really brought joy to my heart, was teaching. I loved it. That was my purpose. And then I kind of lost my way in my 30s. I mentioned a little bit before, I didn't feel like I was a rock star at anything, Louise.
It's called motherhood. So moms out there listening, it's really okay. It's a normal motherhood thing.
I was like a mediocre mom and a mediocre wife and a mediocre friend and a mediocre career woman. And I just lost so much confidence. I lost myself. And finding my purpose now, I know what my purpose is now. My purpose is to help those women, those people that are out there that were just like me. Before my friend died, before I decided to get it together, before I realized that confidence and courage are things that you can build and things that change your entire life, and that they're possible for everybody. And so my purpose is to help other people push through fear, take action, and build their confidence and courage. And that's why I founded Keys to Courage.
I love it. So, and that's how you got connected with Fabi Powell.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear just a little bit more about Fabi, what made you guys, how you connected.
Okay.
A little bit about the fundraiser that you just got involved in, and why. And why did you choose that?
So, you know, Joelle and I have been on this friendship journey of just lifting one another up. So she believed in me to start my business. Well, then in turn, I'm working with her now at her pediatric dental practice. I'm
Of
a
course you are.
I'm a consultant for her. Yes, because I've helped her dial her dream in as well. And what we've done for each other, like authentically wanting the world for one another, not competing, not comparing, just giving with our hearts. We have seen the power in this. I have seen it in the power in the change in my life, the power in like the financial numbers of Joelle's office, like skyrocketing when I kind of came on board. And so what we wanted to do was we wanted to create an event together. And we wanted to create an event to show women what happens when you don't compete, you don't compare, you just come together to lift one another up. So while we didn't have a cause, a fundraising cause at the time, we just had this idea about 4 months ago that we were going to make this night. We were going to call it a night to rise and shine. And it was going to be bringing women together in the community so that we could take this spark that we lit into a flame and kind of create a movement. So then I'm on LinkedIn and I had someone send me a message that said, you need to connect with Fabi Powell. They had heard the story about me losing my best friend and how that propelled me to change my life. And Fabi Powell, this amazing, beautiful woman, lost her husband when he was 27. He went to West Point. He was an Army Ranger. He lost his battle to synovial sarcoma 31 days after they were married. And Fabi is one of these women, when you look at her, like she's physically perfection. I mean, she's beautiful. But I saw her heart. I saw this video. We should link that video for your viewers, Louise.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Of their story and what happened. And that story like broke my heart wide open. But what I loved was that she had taken her pain of losing her husband 2 years ago and turned it into purpose. And so what she does now is she goes around and she gives purpose and she gives hope to those patients that are newly diagnosed with synovial sarcoma through her Josh Powell Foundation. And the craziest thing, Louise, I do not think anything happens by accident. The universe, God, whatever you believe in, there is something bigger than us.
Higher power, in some form.
Because Fabi Powell and her husband lived in Tennessee. My best friend that died, she lived in Tennessee. I'm from California, Fabi's from California. And my best friend and Fabi's husband died less than 2 months apart.
That's incredible.
So we say that our angels brought us together. Because when I connected with her, Joelle and I had this night that we were creating, this fundraiser. When I met Fabi, I knew I wanted that woman to be the woman that we were going to raise money for. And ironically, we had a different organization at the time that we were raising money for, and they weren't grateful for anything. They were a huge organization, and literally they could have cared less. So Joelle and I made the decision. We said, you know what? We're changing directions. And we picked up the Josh Powell Foundation. And Monday, October 22nd was our fundraiser. We raised thousands of dollars. We brought women in from all over the country. Fabi flew out. We met her for the first time in person, even though we've been talking online, on the phone, we've been Skyping, and she is a soul sister to me. And there is so much power in lifting other women up. I mean, you've seen that relationship evolve.
Absolutely.
And the power, Fabi couldn't have done this on her own. I couldn't have done this on my own. Joelle couldn't have done it on her own, but together we created this amazing evening where we could raise money to help Fabi so that she could go do good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful example of how courage, connection, and collaboration just create magic. It really, really does. I always joke that by the time I'm 80, should I be fortunate to live that long, that I'm only going to be speaking in cliches and quotes. But with that said, there's another one, a rising tide lifts all boats, And I think that when we can think of competition less and collaboration more.
Yes.
It just like, this is just yet another beautiful example of how that happens. And
well, here's what happens though, Louise. Women, I think they want to collaborate and they want to have that. But if you don't feel good about yourself, if you don't love yourself, you can't lift anybody up.
No.
And so I've really been, puzzled at when I see women that are breaking other women down, or that see a story like Fabi's, and they don't lift her up. And I know now, it's not because women are bad. It's because women don't love themselves. And once you can build that confidence and know that you are perfect just how you are, and there is nobody else that has what you have, and there is no competition, and there is an abundance of love and joy and success for every single woman out there, then you enable yourself to go do what Joelle and I did.
You do, and I do that with your daughters, folks. I have 4 boys. I tried really hard to have a girl.
Yes.
Didn't happen. But do that with your daughters, because girls are also mean to one another.
Yep.
And that's a message that I think is really important for me. I do some work with some local university for this very, very reason. And it's not at the grade school level, but it's a university level, because, I think about if you go into the university washrooms or even high school washrooms, so education a bit for the men who are listening. There's some pretty rotten things that are written on the stalls of the women's washrooms. That's not men doing that. That's women.
Yeah.
That's women.
It's broken women.
Yeah. It's broken girls.
Yes.
Broken girls going to broken women. And so this is a lot deeper than meets the eye. I mean, anything is, right? Everything is a lot than meets the eye.
Yes.
But this is stuff we need to be talking about with our girls and with our friends. It's so invaluable. And you're a beautiful example of, using the internet as a tool just to bring that to light and make it really very real. So
yeah. And the cool thing is, my daughter and her friends follow me on Instagram. And it's just like, so sometimes as moms, we talk to our kids, and you feel like it's not sinking in. But when your kids are following you, and all those people out there, all those moms, your kids are following you. Yeah. They see what you do. So you can't talk the talk of being kind. But when your daughters hear you talking about other women or talking about other people, that is what they soak in.
Absolutely. I remember my mom. I told you I talk about my mom on this radio show most days.
Yeah.
And I think Amy's mom and dad are listening. So shout out to Amy's mom and dad. My mom said to me growing up, and I never got it. I heard the words, but I didn't understand it until I got, until later in life, that kindness is one of the most underrated qualities ever. And I was like, yeah, all right. But the more that I see and experience, the more I see that to be true. And so I love that, you're showing that and sharing that, not telling that, but showing and sharing that with your own kids. So we're getting close to the end of the show, and I got a few more questions. One specifically that was asked by one of your followers. And so wanted to make sure that this follower of yours got her question asked or answered. So the question is this: what do you want to tell college students studying early childhood education? How can they best prepare?
So I think back to myself, and if you're going in it to make a difference, make that difference. And just band together, and don't be in isolation. Seek out mentors. And if something you feel in your gut isn't going right, like my example with my teacher, speak up. Tell people what's going on, because there's strength in numbers. And don't be scared. And don't be scared to use your voice. And more than just the kids coming out of college, to just women everywhere. Like, we need to support each other. Don't just march in marches. Like, follow. You're laughing, Louise.
It's true.
one of my supervisors marched in a march. So
Oh,
you can't march in marches and then not support women at work when they say, I am not comfortable with this person. I need help. That is what matters.
it's like what you were saying about your daughter. It's one thing to tell, it's one thing to talk at, and it's another thing to show and to do.
Yeah.
Another example of how, so show up. Like show up in your life. Show up. You talk about mentors, and I believe fully that we never get anywhere alone in our life.
Yeah.
That there are always people behind us, beside us, in front of us. And so what role models or what mentors have you had that have supported you along the way?
So I was so fortunate. My parents are amazing. They're still married. They just had their 50th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
They did. And they have modeled for me so many amazing things, friendships being one of them. And that's why I value my friendships, because I saw them with their friendships. And one of my parents' best friends that they've had for 40 years, Dr. Denise Hexum, shout out to Denise. She was a principal who through her career ended up getting her PhD and was a superintendent. But as a kid, she always encouraged me and saw something in me and thought that I would be a good teacher. And so she was a really amazing mentor of mine. And when I was teaching, she always just told me what a gift I had. And she gave me these opportunities. I was speaking in front of groups of hundreds of teachers in my early 20s, sharing what I knew as a consultant, because this woman, my mentor, believed in me. And while I had that in my 20s, I didn't have that when I was a coach. I didn't have those leaders that wanted to create other leaders like she did. And that is one of those keys in leadership that I'm just hold so true. Great leaders, the best leaders, they don't lead with power. They don't want to be in charge. They want to create other amazing leaders.
They do.
And if you don't have a mentor like I did, find mentors online.
Seek them out.
Now through video and books and podcasts and YouTube videos, you don't even need to meet these people. One of my biggest mentors and heroes is Seth Godin. I have never met this man. I'm going to meet him one day, Louise.
I know you are. And I want to hear a little bit about this Seth thing. So you talk about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just plow through fear.
Yeah.
You did this again as it relates to Seth and Joelle. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I did. So, Seth, if you don't know who he is, just go Google this guy, Seth Godin. He has a new book coming out. I do not work for him. But I just shout things on the rooftops that I believe in. And his thoughts on leadership, really, I needed that this year. The more I read from him, the more I realized what I'm seeing in education isn't leadership.
Yeah.
It was power.
It's power.
And so Joelle and I turned Joelle onto Seth's work. And so we're embodying for her dental practice, all of this leadership stuff that Seth talks about. And so her birthday was last month. And I thought, gosh, what do you get your best friend? What do you get someone that's changed your life? Because she changed my life, giving me that belief key, giving me that permission to believe in myself. And I thought, I got to get Seth Godin to email her. And this guy, he's a bajillionaire. He is so famous. I think he's got the biggest blog in the world. Anyhow, he gets thousands of emails a day. But I sat down and I do this thing that we can tell your listeners about later. I literally design my dream life. And I knew I was going to make this happen. And I wrote Seth an email and I said how amazing that this woman was, my best friend, and how all I wanted to get her for her birthday was something that was impossible that I couldn't buy her. And that would be a birthday wish from him. And I told him how she changed my life. And I just said, all I want is for you to send her a birthday wish. And I sent off the email, Louise. And I knew
I love it.
in my bones. I knew that I would hear back from him. I didn't realize how fast it would be. He emailed me back within like 20 minutes. And he said, "You're a good friend. How do I contact her?" And he emailed Joelle. And I got to tell you, like a half an hour later, I get this text from her. And she's just like, "What just happened?" And honestly, she said her jaw dropped when she saw an email from Seth. And it was another one of these like emotional moments. Like, I mean, I cried when I got the response from him just because I wanted to give her the world. And I couldn't give her the world, but I could give her this. And so now this other thing we both do is we print things out and put them up. And so we both have Seth's emails to us up. And yeah, I mean, anything is possible.
Anything is possible, Amy. And we are wrapping up, and I cannot close this interview without hearing more for myself and more for my listeners about what is Design Your Dream Life. Tell us quickly about it and how people can find out about it and get their hands on it.
So if you go to my website, keystocourage.com, I've got so many free resources there with all of these different stories on how to build courage and confidence. And I'm so excited about this course because people have been saying, "I want more, I want more, I want more than all your free resources." And so I've created this course, Design Your Dream Life. And it walks people through the process that I went through myself to create this life I'm living today. My dream career, my dream friendships, my dream relationship with my husband. I've transformed the relationship with my teenage daughter and my health and fitness. And so you get a video and a workbook. And for your listeners, it's going to be 50% off. And the code is going to be BELIEVE, just the word BELIEVE.
Believe. All lowercase?
All lowercase. And the course is on my website under courses. And I believe in this because it worked for me. I did this process. I believe in it so much that if somebody buys it and they go through the process and it's a couple months down the road and they're doing it every day and they see zero results, like, you email me back and I'll give you your money back. Because, yeah,
Keystocourage.com.
Yep. And I'm on Instagram at Keys to Courage.
Check it out, everyone. Amy Perkins, keystocourage.com. And she was just talking about Design Your Dream Life. Well, Amy, the hour is up and I cannot believe how much fun we had. I cannot believe it's over. And I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So at this time as well, I need to thank all of you, my wonderful loyal listeners, and my producer, Cameron Steele at Contact Talk Radio Network. I want to remind you that you can find information about me, about my amazing guests like Amy Perkins on my website, louisehreid.com. And finally, I'm here to highlight and showcase people who are taking brave, bold action and whose actions have a positive, beautiful impact on this world. With that said, I'd like to encourage you to be brave, be bold, and be happy. And I do challenge you, like Amy asked us, to push through fear and do those things that make you uncomfortable. Until next Tuesday, I'm Louise H. Reid, wishing you all an amazing day. Goodbye, friends.